Right, welcome to the end of the month and therefore the book review. And today we are going to be looking at Ensouling the Effigy, The Witch's Art of Inspirited Objects by Matthew Venus. Now, I really like this book. Venus's deep knowledge of witchcraft, it definitely shows. When I read Ensouling the Effigy, what struck me most was how confidently Matthew Venus writes from lived experience rather than just academic knowledge. This isn't a dusty compilation of old lore stitched together. It's clearly written by someone who's been in the field, doing the work, meeting the spirits, crafting objects, making mistakes, and learning. You feel that presence in every page. Venus doesn't hide behind sterile language. She talks directly to you, the reader, like a fellow practitioner, and there's no pretense. The book is essentially about how to give life, spirit, and relationship to objects such as puppets, effigies, fetish objects, ritual tools, and spirit vessels that aren't just symbolic but active participants in your magical practice. The emphasis on animism resonates. The idea that objects aren't inert but can host spirit and agency if treated with intention and respect is one of the book's core threads. There's also a solid practical component, not just theory, but real instructions on making oils, incenses, washes, and the like, with suggestions on how to charge them and enter into meaningful relationship with whatever spirit you're working with. One thing Venus nails is the integration of craft and philosophy. There's too many witchcraft books either focus on rigid ritual scripts or get lost in abstract theory. Here, Venus weaves both effortlessly. The historical context feels grounded but not overwhelming, and the practical advice doesn't skimp on depth. The feeling I walked away with wasn't here's how to do this thing, but more like here's what this practice means and why it matters. Another strength is the voice and tone. Venus writes like someone who respects the intelligence and intuition of the reader. He assumes you're not a complete novice, but he doesn't throw you into the deep end without a rope. For intermediate and advanced practitioners especially, it feels like having a mentor guiding you through uncharted territory instead of a textbook telling you what to think. And let's be honest, this book definitely fills a niche. There's plenty of material on spellcasting, herb lore, divination, or ritual structure in modern witchcraft literature. But how many books dive this deeply into the art of animating objects as spirit hosts? In that sense, Venus's work feels fresh and definitely necessary. Now, a lot of reviewers and readers whose thoughts I've seen, they praise the depth and breadth of the content. They highlight how comprehensive the book feels, like a handbook and philosophy of magical object work rolled into one. Many people also appreciate the earnestness of Venus's approach. His teaching style doesn't come off as elitist or gatekeeping, which some of the books in this space can veer into. Those deeper discussions about spirit relationships, animism, and responsible practice are often cited as the highlight. The voice also gets frequent praise for readers tired of dry and anthropological texts that talk about spirits as if they're museum artifacts. Venus's vibrant, practitioner-centered prose is a breath of fresh air. That said, it isn't universally beloved without reservation. A few people have mentioned that the book assumes a certain level of prior experience. If you're brand new to witchcraft entirely, some sections can feel dense or assume familiarity with concepts like conjuration, defining sacred space, or more advanced ritual structures. In other words, beginners might need to supplement with more introductory material. Now, I don't think this is a problem myself. Not every book can cover the 101 material, and there are so many books out there that do. Adding another would just be overkill, really. Another point that comes up in some conversations online is that the practical exercises, while rich, can be detailed to the point of feeling overwhelming. It's a classic tension in craft books. The deeper you go, the harder it can be to digest all at once. For readers who just want quick, straightforward recipes or magic light, this might feel too dense. Finally, a few people feel that the emphasis on spirit work and animistic practice means that other aspects of witchcraft, like spellcasting structure, elemental work, or more secular interpretations, aren't explored as much here, but that's really a matter of focus rather than a flaw in technique. If you've already got some wheels turning in your practice and you want a book that actually expands your repertoire, Ensouling the Effigy is one of the better modern contributions I've read. Venus brings his own flavour. He's serious, thoughtful, and grounded in lived experience, without pretension. It feels part workshop, part philosophy, and part invitation into a deeper way of working with the world. For what it sets out to do, which is deepen relationship with spirit and craft objects, it mostly succeeds. And even if parts of it feel dense or a bit advanced, there's enough here that you'll be thinking about this one long after you close the cover. All right, and that's the book for this month. I just want to go through some of the quotes that I pulled out, as I normally do. So there's the book. All right, let me just go over here. Right, so this is still the foreword, which I believe is by Matt Oren. Just pointing out some aspects about Matthew Venus, which I thought was quite important, actually. It says he's careful never to cross into territories of closed or industry traditions and speaks firmly against doing so. Nothing in this book is taken from where it doesn't belong. Every technique, formula, and rite offered here is something any practitioner can engage with fully, respectfully, and without causing harm or disrespect to living traditions and those within them, whether human or spirit. Now, I thought that was important, so I noted that. All right, next we've got this here. Yeah, I make these notes and then I forget why I made them. So I'm just going to read the note and then I'll probably remember. That said, I recognize that my understanding of the witch and her craft may at times be incongruous with many contemporary understandings of witchcraft. I remember why I noted this. He has some very interesting takes on particular terms, terminologies, phrases used, um, how he defines things. Very interesting take here and there. And I love this one. Just continuing, this is a part of why I felt this chapter was a necessary addition to our work. For instance, I am of the opinion that the witch may be viewed as a spirit in her own right, one which may breathe into, inhabit, and inspirit us, bewitching us, that we might in turn go forth as an embodiment of the witch within the world. Becoming witched in such a manner is an alteration of self which may be sought out or occasionally be thrust upon an individual as a result of a spirit encounter or the circumstances of their birth. There are any number of ways one might become witched, and each sincere seeker will find their initiations where they will. I thought that interpretation was really, really interesting. I have never come across that interpretation before, and I think it's fascinating. But anyway, make your own determination about that. All right, just carrying on. In contrast, I tend to prefer to use the term sensualization here instead. Though it may be difficult for you to see an orange, you may be able to conjure the memory of its smell and its taste. You might also be able to recall the feeling and of holding an orange and the texture of its skin. We are able to effectively employ diverse aspects of our sensory memory when engaging in this work. So this comes back to you're using the term visualization. When we have to visualize something and the challenges that people with aphantasia face. And I thought this was a great explanation. It's when we talk about visualization, it's a bit of a false term, really, because we're not just using our psychic eyes, for instance, or seeing with the mind's eye isn't just about seeing as we would with our eyes. It's about all of sensations, all of the touch, smell, hearing, all of these sensations or senses that we have, and sensualization as opposed to using visualization, I thought was a great way of putting this. So if you might not be able to see, as in um, as we would if we were looking at something with our eyes, might not be able to see the orange, but you might be able to feel it. You might be able to remember its touch, the texture. You might remember its taste or its smell or something like that, and that's also visualization. Well, it is. It's just English words kind of fail us sometimes. Right, going on to the next one. Let's do this. Oh, this is a chapter on trickster spirits. He said, I have regularly witnessed people within the magical community warn people about trickster spirits, usually with the implication that these are spirits that only want to mislead and manipulate you in order to exploit you or cause you harm. Though such spirits do in fact exist, I'd like to set the record straight that they are more appropriately referred to as manipulative or parasitic spirits rather than trickster spirits. The reason this matters is that true trickster spirits are some of the most powerful allies of the witch, as they often possess and mediate the very powers many of us wish to wield. I absolutely agree with that. We have these parasitic astral parasites or parasitic entities that we're often talking about, and we sometimes refer to them as imposter spirits, but sometimes people refer to them as trickster spirits, and I think that's a very, very bad thing to do because they are not trickster spirits. Trickster spirits are there for a particular reason. Then parasitic entities are completely different. So I think we need to stop referring to them as trickster spirits and leave that where it should be. Anyway, let me carry on. All right, that was actually I did highlight this here. These types of cauldrons can often be found sold as poiki pots, which is I thought was quite interesting because in South Africa it's an Afrikaans. Well, it's used in Afrikaans anyway. The term poiki is a type of food, a type of cuisine, and a cauldron, a cast iron cauldron with 3 feet, is usually called a poiki pot. So I found that quite interesting coming from somebody who lives in America. And anyway, so that's it for this book review. And I'll see that the link to the book on Amazon is in the description and probably at the top here as well in the little info icon. If you want to go buy the book yourself, as mentioned previously, and all book reviews I do, I do get a commission from the sale, a small commission, which goes towards buying more books that on Kindle that I can then review. All right, so it goes to getting more reviews. So please consider doing that. All right, and I do thank you if you do. Okay, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Cheers.